Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and I have a very cool pistol to show you today. This is a Rideout Arsenal Dragon. Now, this is a pistol that's gotten a lot of attention. It was only released to the public a couple months ago, August of 2025. It was designed by a guy named Travis Rideout, basically the sort of lone engineer, designer, entrepreneur school of firearms creation. He started this project 2016 or 2017, working as an engineer, designing robotics parts professionally. Did this on his free time at home, and after a number of years, had come up with a design, got it to the point where it seemed to be something actually worth really pursuing. So quit his job, dedicated his work full-time to Rideout Arsenal, and in August of 2025 released the pistol, the Dragon, to, well, released it online to the world. And we have one of his pre-production examples here to take a closer look at. Now, this is, of course, drawing a lot of comparisons to the Laugo Alien. They are both very low bore axis pistols. That was one of the design criteria that Rideout had. But beyond that low bore axis, these two guns really have nothing in common. Well, the bore axis and being a competition-intended gun with a high price tag. But when it comes to the mechanics and the design, they are completely different pistols. And they're both really interesting. I'm excited to take this one apart and show you guys all the clever elements that went into it, because there really are a lot of them. To start with, this is a lever delayed pistol, which I think is a really interesting choice for operating system. There's been a bit of a trend in the last few years of like clever entrepreneurial gun designers coming up with designs that are a little off the beaten track, things that are not just 1911 or 2011 clones, and things that are not just striker fired polymer framed Browning tilting barrel actions. And that's where you get, well, the Laugo Alien for one, but you also get things like the Rideout Dragon. I think the lever delay system actually has a lot of potential for a handgun package like this. It can be relatively compact. It's an elegant system. It allows you to have a completely fixed barrel. They tend to be a bit on the dirty side. We'll see how that pans out with this design, but let's go ahead and take a closer look and pull it apart. I want to show you the inside. Start with a look around the outside of the gun. The bore axis is indeed quite low, also marked on the muzzle there, but bore axis is very low all the way down here. That is underneath the top of your hand. So this is not a pistol that's going to tend to buck upwards on recoil. It's going to be much more of a linear impulse into your hand. That isn't the same as having reduced recoil. It just means the recoil is going this direction and not causing a moment of the barrel tilting up after each shot. The gun is also completely legitimately ambidextrous. So we have a slide release on either side. We have a magazine release on either side. That doesn't have to be transitioned side to side. It's just a push through magazine release going either direction. And the magazines are actually not proprietary. These are Springfield Echelon or HS Product Echelon magazines. They have a magazine release notch in the right place to actually work with the geometry of this pistol. So this first edition kit comes with 5 of those magazines. 2 of them are 17 rounders like this, and 3 of them are 20 rounders. This has a 1911 style sliding trigger, not pivoted, with a trigger safety. And when we get into it, you'll see this, but the trigger safety actually blocks the trigger as well as the sear from moving, which is, it's really cool. Very safe design, although there is no manual safety. Again, this is a competition style of pistol where the trigger safety is expected to do all the work of preventing an unintended discharge. The frame is aluminum, in this case bronze colored, which looks really cool. We've got a magazine well funnel that is removable. We have a sort of gas pedal style of thumb rest on both sides. Again, entirely ambidextrous pistol. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, optics mounting back here. So there are iron sights, but the gun, at least the first edition guns, come with a Trijicon SRO red dot. One of the challenges of some of these really cool looking pistols is getting an optic on them that doesn't look totally out of place. And honestly, I think the SRO does look pretty good on here. It fits well, better than perhaps an Acro would. Like the Acro is a little mailboxy. Great optic, not the greatest aesthetics. Anyway, SRO comes on there along with fiber optic sights. And for racking, one of the cool things about this is you can rack it either with the front here, or you can actually grab it by the optic and rack it that way. However, the optic does not move when the bolt cycles normally when you're firing. So that's really cool. How do they do that? Well, let's dig into that right now. All right, before we take it apart, let me just take a moment to show you the operating system from the outside. This is lever delayed, so we actually have two components here. We have a slide assembly back here. That's got the breech face in it. You can see right down there. And it's going to extend back a little bit and also forward up into the operating area here. We then also have this top piece, and this is a separate component. So if I hold the slide in place, you can see that I can move this top casing shell back and forth. And the reason for that is this is a leveraged weight. So like I said, this was a lever delayed. What happens is when the slide starts moving backwards, there's a lever in here that forces this element to move backwards at a much reduced, well, at a lot of mechanical disadvantage. So this weight has to get accelerated faster than the slide is moving, and it has to move before the slide can really open up at all. So if I grab this by this part and slide it back, it's super easy to open because I'm putting force directly on this. When we fire it and force is applied here that then gets leveraged into this piece, it takes a lot more energy to actually open the gun, and that's what provides the delay for it to remain safe to shoot with 9 parabellum ammo, up to and including apparently plus P ammo. All right, now let's go ahead with disassembly. I'm going to lock it open and then remove the nose cap. The nose cap on this particular one is a little bit loose, which isn't great because it does have the front sight on it. It is, of course, also a pre-production model, so perhaps they'll be tightening that up. Once I take this nose cap off, you can see there's a tri-lug, basically a tri-lug adapter on the front of the barrel there, which means this is one of a lot of elements of modularity that you'll see as we go through the gun. In the future, if this program develops, if this company continues and develops, you could very easily get compensators or suppressors that would mount on the same tri-lug assembly right there on the front of the gun. That's a cool element. I like seeing that kind of forethought put into the gun. It's not modularity in the form of like, you can have different colored grip panels on it. It's actually usable modularity that allows you to easily add cool features that people are going to want. All right, next up, drop the slide down, bolt carrier, whatever you want to call it in this case. And then we have a lever here that locks this weight onto the slide. So you can see it pops up right there. And that locks it in place. When you're actually using the gun, this tab is held rigid in that slot. So it can't come loose and it can't unlock this while you're shooting. Once the front is off of the gun, I can pop that down, slide this weight forward, and then lift it off. And you can see this is really just mass for the lever system. That is our mainspring right there, and this is the lever in question. So next, let's go ahead and take the mainspring out. I'm going to pull this back, and then I can lift the spring out. It is actually 2 springs nested together with a little guide rod there. Now you can see our lever right here. So the way that this works is that this lever, you can see it's got a little protrusion at the bottom that sits in front of this surface. You can see it's a little shiny. This is, like I said, this is a pre-production gun. It's had a bunch of ammo run through it already. And the recoil spring is going to hold the lever forward like this. So when the slide starts to move backwards, it has to pull this lever down like that, just like that. And you've got the recoil spring pushing forward on it, and you've got the top of that lever locked into this extra weight. So this thing can't slide back until that lever pushes this back first, and that's where you get your delay. All right, moving on. All I have to do to disassemble this is pick it up, and pull it out of the gun there. This this does look a bit like the slide from a Laugo Alien, but for example, the Alien is hammer fired, this is striker fired. So this is our striker right here. The firing pin's actually kind of offset from the striker. There you go, you can see it right in there. And let me point out right now, there is an extension running forward from the striker right here, and that's what the sear actually engages on. This is a really clever fire control system. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Let me pull the spring guide off, or the spring housing off. Now I can actually pull off the barrel, which is really cool. If you haven't noticed, this is an entirely tool-free disassembly, which is doubly impressive. So this lug right here is the barrel latch. And I just have to lift that upward like that. And then the barrel slides out the front of the gun. It's a bit unorthodox looking. It's a square profile barrel, round on the inside, of course. But this slots into the bottom of the frame. That's the locking lug that holds it in place. And this does not move when you fire. Levered delay, one of the characteristics of it is that it uses a fixed barrel. So that's good for your accuracy. Next up, we can pull off the optic by just sliding it off the back of the gun. The way that this system works when you are able to cock the gun with either the front or with the optic itself is that we have this little lug on the back of the slide here and a track in the optic right there. So when this is assembled, that lug sits in the track right there. When it fires normally, it just reciprocates underneath the optic. If you grab the optic and pull it back, that lug catches on that front lip and allows you to cycle the slide using the optic. I'll show you here on the frame. So when the slide's in the gun, this is in battery and this is the recoil stroke right there. It's sliding underneath where the optic sits up there. Also worth pointing out, the back end of the firing pin spring does have a little extended button there that acts as a bit of a recoil buffer when this hits the end of travel. Not a whole lot. I don't know that that does very much. It's not that strong of a spring, but it is something. If you look closely in the optics mount here, you will see we have a little spring catch right there. That locks into this little bit of the optic mount. So when it's all the way forward, it retains itself in place. Once you pop that latch back, then it will slide until it locks back in place. I don't know how solid this is. There is a little bit of play in this. Is it comparable to the play you get in between barrel and slide on a Browning style gun? We'll see. I'm not sure. Personally, if it were my design, I would probably opt to mount to fix this in place and not have it as a secondary way to rack the action. I think that's a cool feature, but I don't think it's as necessary, perhaps, and I'd rather have the optic solidly set in place. But that's just me. All right, moving on, we're gonna take apart the grip assembly. There is a little sliding serrated button right there. I slide that up, and the back strap just pops off. It locks into a lug there, and then comes down. Once I take that off, I can then take off the mag funnel, which is just dovetailed onto, or slides onto, the bottom of the magazine assembly. So you can run this without this if you don't want it. Another modularity sort of feature in the future, any different size you want to put on can be done. With this off, I can then actually take off the whole grip assembly. It just slides backward. And again, we've still had no tools used in this whole process. Everything essentially Legos itself together. Or perhaps to use a better historical firearms analogy, this is like a C96. All the pieces just fit together. This is your slide stop. It sits here in the grip frame and just drops out. You'd think this is as far as it goes, but no, there is yet another step, and that is the trigger assembly comes out. It also just has a pair of rails that it sits on in this frame element. So that drops out. This, by the way, is the legally serialized component of the gun. This one is PP0007. PP in this case is pre-production. And that leaves us with just an aluminum alloy frame here, a bit of rail on the front for accessories. The ejector is fixed in place, and that's it. One of the cool things here is there are no connecting linkages hardly in this design, because the entire trigger and sear mechanism is in this assembly right here. So this is actually what releases the trigger. So it's a little tricky for me to replicate this without any spring tension on anything, but as you may recall, I mentioned that there is this extension on the striker up here. Normally, on a striker-fired gun, you would have the sear catching somewhere on the back of the striker. On this, it's actually catching on that finger out front, and it's this finger right here that is doing it. So this sits up in here. I can sort of get you some of that interaction here with half of the parts in the gun. As the slide goes forward, you can see it, the trigger bar right there, holding on to that extension of the striker and holding it back until the gun's all the way into battery. All right, there you go. There is the Rideout Arsenal Dragon, fully disassembled. And again, I didn't even need my typical ballpoint pen to disassemble this. This was legitimately completely toolless. Very cool. There are a number of different ways that one could approach bringing a brand new independent design like this to market. And what Rideout decided to do was offer a batch of 100 first edition pistols to the market to see if there was enough interest to actually continue the company and build it into something more. So these are pistols that have the cachet of being the exclusive, limited, first edition of the gun. There's only 100 available. The price tag is correspondingly relatively high at $5,200, but they come with the whole case here. 5 magazines, comes with the Trijicon SRO optic, comes with a race gun style of holster, and a handful of other smaller accessories. You know, it's a cool package for those who are interested and excited to have that sort of premium, high-end, early adopter status and pistol. Assuming that those sell and the future seems bright for the company, the plan for a regular production model is to have a price tag of $3,600. That's still pricey. That's still a lot more than you're going to pay for a Glock, but it is also a pistol that's in development from a brand new company and has some premium to it. So we will see what comes of it, but I think a lot of it's going to depend on how much people actually like shooting the things. So let's take this one out to the range and see how it does. All right, so by the way, this does come with a race gun, very swoopy race gun style holster, which I'm not going to use. All right, so yes, couple malfunctions. Keep in mind, please, this is a pre-production example of the gun. Rideout, Travis, did tell me about a couple of changes that they are making. They're tweaking some of the fine dimensional details. Also, in particular, they are redesigning the optics mount just slightly to move the optic back. The SRO here is actually far enough forward that, get my hand out of the way, it can actually interfere with the ejection, and they know it, and they're fixing it on the production models of the gun, and I think that's what we had happen on that very last round. But that is very comfortable, like very comfortable to shoot, more so than I was expecting. That's nice. Another failure to... Ooh, interesting. Got a light strike on it. That one's legitimately empty. All right, now I know you guys want a side-by-side comparison with the Alien, and I don't blame you. I do too. So I brought an Alien. That's quite similar. I think, to be honest here, I have to give the benefit to the Alien in controllability. It might be partly that the Alien is a bit heavier of a pistol. They both very much have the low bore axis benefit of like a direct impulse back into your hand instead of rocking the gun up, which allows you to keep the sights on target, either dot or irons, way better than traditional design, Browning style pistols. However, I do also want to mention here that the Alien always, for me, as a left-hander, has that thumb issue of I get a grip on it like this, and you may have noticed it. The first round I fired almost malfunctioned by bouncing the case back into the ejection port. I felt it bounce off my thumb. And I'm like, oh, wait, and adjust slightly. The Dragon did not do that to me. So I can get a normal, nice thumb-high grip here. And maybe drop the magazine. But no interference issues with the left hand, and that's nice. One of the specific things that Rideout was doing with this was making it a completely ambidextrous gun. So the mag release and hold open, the mag catch are both fully ambidextrous. And it's nice that essentially the shooting grip is ambidextrous as well. I keep going back up here. I don't know, if it were me, I think I would leave this solid and just have the rack off of that. All right, overall, I think there's a tremendous amount of potential in here. I know we saw a couple of malfunctions here. Again, it's a pre-production gun. This is a pre-production gun with quite a lot of wear on it as well, because it's been through a lot of different shooters and a lot of testing. Ultimately, what I'm really curious to see is a comparison between a production Rideout Dragon and one of the new Laugo Alien Remus editions. The Remus adds a substantial number of tweaks and changes to improve the Alien. And I think that's the matchup that I want to see personally. So hopefully I'll get my hands on a Remus at some point here, and hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on a production example of the Dragon, and we can do a head-to-head on those once they're both available, and that'll be super cool. But I love the concept. I think the disassembly is magnificent here, and I'm really excited to see where this pistol goes. Big thanks to Rideout for loaning me this one for filming. I will be sending it back to them, and excited to see where they go with it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.